Good afternoon. On today's Angry Bulletin, even though transparency may not seem the best thing for launch providers all the time because it puts your failures out in front of everybody, and sometimes those failures can look a lot more spectacular and damaging than they actually turn out to be, it's much better to be that way, in my opinion, than to try to conceal your failures from the world. Because when that happens, journalists can sometimes imagine things being far worse than they actually are because we don't have any details at all. And that's what's happened with Blue Origin. Again, except in this case, 2 New Glenn rockets have apparently been damaged in factory mishaps that could potentially have an impact on Blue Origin's HLS obligations for Artemis. And once again, it's very difficult for us to determine whether or not this is indeed the case because Blue Origin isn't telling us anything. But I'm going to tell you what we know thus far and what sort of impact these mishaps may actually have right now. In a recent episode, I made some pretty critical comments about how little Blue Origin was showing Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut of their facility, and how much they had him blur out. Admittedly, a lot was not blurred out, but this, I think, is one of the most significant scenes that wasn't blurred out. Just the amount of open factory floor space there still is in the Blue Origin facility, in spite of the fact that they should be churning out lots and lots of rockets by this time. Incidentally, this particular image is a lot older than the one you were just looking at, and we have a lot of other indications to suggest that a launch of New Glenn is indeed imminent. This is the Blue Origin recovery ship for the primary booster. It's actually sailing from France, from the port of Brest, interestingly enough. This isn't something that Blue Origin advertised, by the way. It's something that a sharp-eyed observer noticed and posted on X. Blue Origin would never publicly talk about these sorts of things, given how secretive this organization is. And one of the reasons that I'm so critical about this philosophy is not because they're trying to hide their technology. They should try to hide their technology. But the fact of the matter is, they have now billions and billions of taxpayer dollars in their pockets for the HLS project for Artemis, not for some sort of secretive military mission. That being the case, then, Blue Origin should be sharing a fair amount of information regarding what they're doing with all this money, like all the other Artemis participants are doing, such as Boeing and SLS. As bad as they are, we've seen a lot more transparency from Boeing, especially in regards to what the NASA OIG had to say about them, as opposed to Blue Origin, who seems to have been OIG bulletproof in spite of these recent incidents. In fact, I have to wonder whether or not the OIG is even aware of what happened. So what did happen, by the way? Well, a sharp-eyed photographer from NASA spaceflight, Julia Bergeron, observed that it appears that the front door on the Two-Cat factory at the Blue Origin facility at Cape Canaveral appears to be blown off, and this is the only visual evidence that we have that anything has gone amiss. However, BNN Bloomberg has reported a lot more that apparently has been revealed in leaks from Blue Origin insiders, and I'm just going to go ahead and read you the article. Quote, Blue Origin sustained failures in recent weeks of testing, including a factory mishap that damaged a portion of a future New Glenn rocket, the long-awaited centerpiece of the Jeff Bezos-backed startup's push to take on SpaceX. The upper portion of one rocket crumpled into itself, in part due to worker error while it was being moved to a storage hangar, according to people familiar with the situation. In a separate incident, another upper rocket portion failed during stress testing and exploded. And I think that's probably where the factory door was blown off, but once again, we can't say for certain. We have nothing official. Repairs are underway, and there were no injuries during either episode. The previously unreported incidents illustrate the hurdles Blue Origin is grappling with while ramping up production of New Glenn, which is 4 years overdue. At the same time, new Chief Executive Officer Dave Limp has hired a slate of executives to shake the company out of a years-long R&D slump. Blue Origin is rushing to meet a tight deadline to debut the rocket in October for a NASA mission called Escapade. New Glenn's launch is set for roughly 2 months from now because at that time, Mars will be close enough to Earth. Just to put in my own addition there, yes, that conjunction is very important, and we won't have another opportunity to launch Escapade for another 2 years, which will essentially lead to a failure of the mission overall if New Glenn cannot pull this off. It is not clear whether the recent incidents would impact the launch schedule. The two mishaps involved hardware slated for the second and third flights of the New Glenn rocket, which are supposed to happen after the October debut. A Blue Origin spokesperson said it's on track to launch New Glenn this year and is working hard to make that happen. However, as near as I can tell from this article, that spokesperson didn't talk about the incidents, they just said that they are on track. The company has a lot of hardware in production for upcoming flights, the spokesperson said, adding that Blue Origin is constantly testing its future hardware. New Glenn is designed to take satellites and eventually people into Earth's orbit, and actually all the way to the moon, too. It's key to Blue Origin's ability to challenge Elon Musk's SpaceX and Boeing and Lockheed Martin Corp's United Launch Alliance for lucrative U.S. national security missions. It's also central to clearing a backlog of commercial launches for satellite operators, including Amazon's Project Kuiper, an initiative to expand global broadband access. But first, as we said before, the company is on deck to launch Escapade, an ambitious inaugural mission for NASA that will send twin spacecraft to Mars to study the planet's magnetic field. The two spacecraft, by the way, are built by Rocket Lab in collaboration with the University of California at Berkeley. Escapade, by the way, stands for the Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorers mission. It's a twin spacecraft science mission that will orbit two spacecraft around Mars to understand the structure, composition, variability, and dynamics of Mars' unique hybrid magnetosphere. The mission will leverage its unique dual viewpoint on the Mars environment to explore how the solar wind strips atmosphere away from Mars to better understand how its climate has changed over time. Escapade is being developed under NASA's Small Innovative Missions for Planetary Exploration, known as Simple X program, in the Science Mission Directorate. It's being led by the University of California at Berkeley, with spacecraft design provided by Rocket Lab. The two spacecraft are planned for launch in 2024, according to Rocket Lab, aboard a Mars ride-sharing program aboard a NASA-provided commercial launch vehicle. Once again, Rocket Lab didn't specify Blue Origin in its official announcement, and now I'm beginning to wonder whether or not they might regret that NASA selected New Glenn for this mission. But then again, near as we can tell, the New Glenn rocket that is slated to carry this particular mission is not in jeopardy as a result of these accidents. But again, that's according to industry insiders, not according to NASA, not according to Blue Origin, not according to anybody. And it would be really nice to get more information about these critical missions, again, especially when one considers that millions, if not billions, of taxpayer dollars are being spent on it. We need transparency if we're talking about these types of programs. Yes, I totally understand secrecy surrounding military programs, but for a company that recently received a multi-billion-dollar project to put human beings on the surface of the moon for the first time in over 50 years, we need the same level of transparency with this company, and at least with this particular program, as we have with Boeing Boeing and SLS. No, I don't want them to run their company the same way that Boeing does, but I would like them to be just as available to the NASA Office of Inspector General to determine where they are in the process and whether or not they might be able to fill in for SpaceX in case Lunar Starship takes a bit longer to develop than people are anticipating. Indeed, it seems that Lunar Starship is definitely heading in that direction. But for right now, it seems that Blue Origin is content to be as opaque as they have ever been, and NASA doesn't seem to be holding their feet to the fire. Hopefully that changes sometime soon. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I would like to welcome new Patreon members Andrew G. and some random guy who have contributed to my efforts to get across the Atlantic to cover the upcoming Crew 9 mission for NASA and SpaceX. Really looking forward to that at the end of September. If you would like to support this endeavor as well, all the details are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and as always, stay angry about space.